All right. Welcome to episode 2, a new week for us for the Gen X guys. As you know, you have Len and JD here. And this week, we're going to be focused on sports, similar to what we talked about last week. Each week could be slightly different, but for now,
Really original right now.
yeah, I think we have some
Two
great
older
topics.
white guys talking about sports. Nobody does that.
Well, we have plenty of topics this week because you have the NBA kickoff, you have World Series baseball. Also, again, we're Gen X, so we're going to have our personal opinions over the generations about sports. And one that, if we get to it, I think could be interesting is, are sports rigged? I think Lena has a great conversation around that one. Not sure why.
Why me?
Why not you? So
Fine,
let's,
that's fair enough.
yeah.
NBA
So let's
kickoff.
talk NBA, right?
Yeah.
So first week NBA kicked off. You had on Tuesday night, you had the Lakers against Denver in a repeat of the Western Conference Finals, and then you had the Warriors against Suns, which was a close game compared to the Laker game.
Yeah.
But most of the games kicked off this week. So what's been your take so far in the first 4 days really of games that have gone on? Anything that's interested you or you thought was people should be aware of as far as how it's looking?
I don't know. I mean, for your team, being a Cavs fan and kind of seeing LeBron and all the history I have with him, I don't understand how 21 years into his career he can still play at this level. I mean, you can say what you want about him as
35 minutes the last game, by the way.
Yeah, where he ranks and all that shit, but in terms of just him being an athlete, it's unreal the longevity that he's had, and just like if there's one record that probably will never be beat is like how many minutes he's played and everything, given playoff runs and all that type of stuff. It's just it's unbelievable. But you're starting to see a lot of those same deficiencies in this Laker team that you've seen in years past, not just with the Lakers, but like even on other teams when LeBron is there after like a few years, for some reason, it just the team around him fades. It's been a theme that you saw with.
What do you mean by fades? Like you're talking about the player skill set, or
I don't know, but it's like the contribution from the rest of the team, whether it's a skill set or the players that remain after a period of time, just don't contribute after like him being on a team 4 to 5
they're
years.
contributing fine. What are you talking about? Give me an example.
Really?
Give me
Really?
an example. Yeah,
For
one
this
example. Give me one example.
You're talking about this one.
I'm talking about the Lakers. I don't give a shit about your Cavs team.
That's fine. That's fine.
Pass.
Yeah, of course you don't. You only care about.
I don't. I really don't. So
Okay.
what is it? The
Well,
Lakers.
what's the point differential right now when LeBron's on the court versus
It's irrelevant. Did they
It's
win?
irrelevant. It's like a fucking 30, 40-point swing.
I'm just saying, did they win?
Unbelievable how big of a swing it still is. I mean, what do you attribute to? I mean, is it you can't just say it's their bench, but I mean, he has to be on the court for them to win now. And how sustainable is that, you think, for the Lakers going through the season with him? I mean, look, again, he is what he is. And again, you can't take away from the fact that at his age, he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. But Father Time is undefeated, right? Eventually, it's going to take a toll on him. And even with what he does and how prepared he is and everything like that, look, he may go through the season again and not fade off, but you can't bank on that. I mean, at a certain point, he's going to have rest. He's going to have games where he's not playing close to 30 minutes or
Right.
over. I mean, I shouldn't say close to, but you know what I mean. How can he sustain that, or the Lakers expect him to sustain that through the season?
Well, they don't. That was not their intention. They went to 35 because of the first game. They did probably just around 30, 29, 30, and we lost. But I think we lost because, again, AD disappeared in the second half.
He really
No
did.
points whatsoever. As far as it goes with the Lakers in general, we'll see. I mean, it's just 2 games in. But to your point, I mean, LeBron is a big factor, but I think it's because AD doesn't take command, and that was more evident in game 1. Game 2, he put up 30. So
Yeah.
he showed up, was better, and LeBron played more, so maybe that helps a bit. But I think, the team, we have a lot of changes. The Lakers had a lot of changes in the offseason as well, so they still got to figure it out. But enough about the Lakers. I mean, there's other games that went on as well, right? I mean,
Well, okay, then what did you think about Denver? Like the whole idea of, was it just the run that they had? I mean, when you look at them, they just seem to pick off where they went. I mean, he just seems like he just goes out. Oh, I'm going to start playing basketball now. I'm done with my horse racing, and I'm just going to decide to go play basketball now. And he just goes out there and does a triple double and just acts like it's nothing.
I know. When
It's so
you look at him on, if you were just looking on a regular court, you'd be like, okay, yeah, this guy's decent.
different.
Maybe he
Like
can play.
basketball, whatever.
He just gets it. I've never been a big Jokic fan, but at the same time, I can respect what they do as far as his what he puts in his time. I mean, he's definitely in a better state than he was years past, which proved it by last year winning a title.
Right, right.
He's had the back to back. He's smart. He understands how to pass. He knows how to do everything. So, and he takes the most awkward shots that just don't seem like. I mean, and he's slow when he goes into his shots, but he gets them up, and no one stops him. It's crazy with all that size.
To me, it's like he's deliberate when he does it, though. He's very. It's like that whole thing when like going back to like being a Cavs fan, J.R. Smith. The harder the shot was, the more likely he was to make it. When he had time to set, think, and shoot, he would miss, and badly a lot of times. Like J.R. Smith is like the total opposite of him, where I think he's just just relaxed the whole time. That's why he can make it. He never. It's like that, the thing where they say like there's a lot of players in the NBA who in practice can make 95% of their free throws, but once they get into the game, it drops to like 80%. Like it's the moment never seems to affect him at all. And I think that's why what we may see as unathletic or casual or whatever, I think it's just he just plays and he just is relaxed and comfortable, which makes it's almost like a Luka type thing. He just goes out there and he does his own thing.
Well, let's talk about also the rookie that got selected this year, Wemby. So his first game, they didn't win, and he was okay. He only got 6 points. He hardly took shots. He only took like 4, if I remember correctly. So he didn't really now he made some good blocks.
Yeah.
He got some rebounds, but it was really for the first game, nerves probably kicked in. He wasn't really capable of doing a lot in that game. But the second game, he put up over 20 and had like 12 boards. And so he definitely stepped up. They won, and he ended up tying the game late as well. So it's a good step for him. But I watched the kid play, and it's like, okay, his size alone. What's that?
He's also just 19 years old.
Well, no, I agree. But he's been playing in adult leagues over in France.
But still.
It's the same thing as Luka. Luka played in Barcelona, and so he played for the professional leagues as a young age, and so you can see some of that between the two of them. But I'll be curious to see how Wemby does, because with that size and his length, he's going to be able to misdirect a lot of shots, change shots, and block a lot. And his rebounding should be pretty easy. Easy in the sense like he should be able to get in there and get a lot of them. But it's more health. I'm more concerned about anytime you see a guy like that, like a Sean Bradley in the past, or others who have just been like tall and lanky. Even Porzingis, right? Porzingis is another example. Yeah. They can only do so much.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
When I said 19, I didn't mean it as a negative on him.
I think you did, because you're a dick about everything.
That's fair. That is definitely fair. But no, I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's like, there is the whole thing about, I think to your point about the whole his length, he still has growing to do. And, he is going to be in a more physical environment of the NBA where, it's just going to be a lot for him to adjust to. But I think as his body matures, hopefully he kind of fills out a little bit more with a lot of the training that he'll do out here. Skill set, you could see that he has it, but it's just, and he, to your point, like go from that lengthiness to being like, I mean, look at the, I'm not saying that he's going to be like a Shaq and how Shaq ballooned up like, 100 pounds over his rookie year, but there are going to have to be changes for him to actually make it in the NBA, but he definitely has a skill set. But again, no, when I meant 19, I just meant that there's that whole thing of he's still
growing.
He has to feel for it. Yeah, he's still definitely growing.
Yeah. Well, and like I said,
that was on kind of, now I'm blanking on who they played against. See, this is also another thing with Gen X guys. You're going to see us just forget things because we're old.
Yeah, we just don't care. It's fine.
But it was the rookie on
You'll get
Dallas.
there. Dallas?
No, son of a bitch.
They
Who did
did.
they
The
play?
first game was against Dallas.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah, the rookie on Dallas.
Rookie on Dallas. I don't remember any real big rookie on Dallas, but
No, he had a great game. Forget it. I'm just
it's
gonna.
it's fine. Yeah, we will.
Unless you
Well,
look
everybody will
up-
forget this even happened. We'll just move on from this
Yeah, let's
conversation
move
at
on.
this point. But needless
Uh,
to say, I didn't catch any of the other games. Any other games call out to you that people should be like interested in? Anything else you
watch
found
the
exciting
Warriors.
for the first week?
The Warrior game kind of started out as expected. It's like Phoenix came out hot and then they faded. It's just I don't like that team. I don't like them that much.
You don't like the Warriors team?
No, Phoenix.
Phoenix won that game.
Okay, I am totally
Jesus Christ, dude.
I
All
gotta get
right.
it.
I apologize to everyone listening.
No,
I mean,
no.
he's just lost it.
Wait,
So
who did the Warriors play the first
hold
game?
on. Warriors played Phoenix the first game and they
That's what I
lost
said.
108 to 104. I asked you, you
That's what I
said Phoenix faded. I'm like, so, but Phoenix won. How could Phoenix have faded if they won?
No. Phoenix lost the first game.
No, they won 108
Against
to
the Warriors?
104 against the Warriors. The fuck? I swear to God, dude. Anyway, it's okay, old man. It happened. They lost the first game 108 to 104 to the Warriors, and they won their next game. Or no, they won their first game 108 104. See, now you got me all backwards and shit. They won their first game 108 104, and then they lost the second game to the Lakers.
I'm just backwards then. My mistake.
It's fine. It's fine. I think people will understand that you're old, dude. I mean, you're old. There's not much that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was my point. Like Phoenix with Devin Booker and KD playing, Beal didn't even play. They barely beat the Warriors, who are still figuring out how to pull Chris Paul in, who I think I mean, when they first got him, I kind of laughed. I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, why'd you get a small guy? You like need big guys. And they're still going to struggle against big teams like Denver because who's going to man up against Jokic? So they're going to have a tough time. But their shooting's going to be ridiculous, and their smarts on the court will probably what make the difference because they just beat up the Kings. What last night actually was the game against the Kings, and that was where Curry put up over 41.
Yeah.
So that's another team in the West. I mean, we haven't even talked about the East, by the way. We've just been focused on the West.
True.
But from the Warriors, I think we'll see over the next couple of weeks where they kind of meld out as far as how they start molding together. And once Draymond comes back, will be big. But then for the East, I mean, right now you had Milwaukee with Dame winning the game for them against Philly without Harden. Yeah, that was an interesting game too. I mean, and Harden, I don't know.
Why would any team trade for him at this point?
Well, a couple teams will. Clippers, they're always been the one that's in the mix that want him. But
is it just because you want to win now? Because you can't see him as a long-term piece.
Correct. And he's not going to win now.
Right. So why would you pick him up unless it's for 1 or 2 years with him? Because he does it with every team. Like, after he left, it just every team after that seems to be like he's just there. Everything goes good for like a year or two, and then it just falls apart.
Yep.
It seems to be worse and worse.
Yeah, I guess it's a mental thing. And earlier this week on Dan Patrick Show, which I listen to a lot or weekly, is they had Doc Rivers on, and they asked specifically about Harden versus Ben Simmons. And one thing that Doc brought up, which I thought was interesting listening to it at the time, was that Harden himself was playing great last season. Up like Philly was best team in basketball in the NBA for like the first 30 games.
Right.
And then, they hit a little road stop, but then the All-Star game comes and goes, and Harden didn't get selected. And he was leading in points and helping and topping assists and whatnot. And from Doc's perspective, he's like, he came back, realizing like, I guess it doesn't matter, and wanted to just become more of an individual again. And that's where the team unity lost, and that's where it fell down. So that's the problem. It's like, it happens with a lot of people mentality. You start going into, oh, well, I need to do more now because clearly people don't think enough about me. And you start thinking about yourself for some people as an individual instead of as a team. And that's where you see a lot of these teams break down. So anyway, that's hard.
See,
Yeah.
last night?
Which game last night?
No, Luca.
No, I did not. I saw the highlights.
Yeah.
But you caught the game.
I caught the game. He just took over. I mean, it was just one of those games where he just looks so comfortable and casual about how he shoots and how he plays. But the defense on him was flawless in at the end of the game. I mean, they were on. They kept on doubled every time he touched the ball. Two guys were on him like immediately. He couldn't drive. He couldn't get anywhere past the arc, and he does. I think what you said was it was almost like a sky hook type.
Yeah, like a one-handed turn and chuck it type of look.
Like one of those ones you would see like in elementary school basketball when they just shoot it from like really far and they just kind of take it and they throw it like a baseball. He kind of did one of those things, but he off the backboard he made it.
Yeah. You didn't call glass though, dude. It shouldn't count. If you don't call glass, it doesn't count.
That's right. That's right.
That's all I know. If you don't call glass,
right. You gotta call glass.
Yeah.
He's just another one. He just looks so casual when he plays. And there was all that talk about, whether they should build around Kyrie or not. Or not. There wasn't a lot of talk, but there were a lot of especially some of the ex NBA players, commentators talking about should they build more around Kyrie than Luka, and it's no. First of all, Luka's in his prime.
Yeah. Very true.
Kyrie's, as much as I love him for what he did in Cleveland, he's not a centerpiece for a team. He's just not. Luka is.
Well, no, Kyrie should be coming in to just help augment him, not take over.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But I mean, there's a lot to go. I mean, you have the Celtics starting 2-0 again.
Right.
So they've looked pretty good with Porzingis. You got Oklahoma City, or not Oklahoma City, I'm sorry, Memphis, who started 0-2, and they don't have Ja for at least the first 28 games, I believe it is. I can't remember the exact number, but it's over a quarter of the season. He's going to be gone. So we'll see how they play out. But it'll be interesting. We'll see how the season goes.
I like watching Morant play.
So do I. I do. I like his play.
I do.
Unfortunately, he's run into all these situations, which just whether, just to making decisions that just present a bad environment, whether or not it is, that's for other people to figure out. But at least visually, when all you're presented with is a picture of guys holding guns and waving and hearing stories about them, threatening others or getting into fights and whatnot. Again, people get in the fights all the time. NBA in the past, like we can kick into this from a generational standpoint, right?
There you go.
So
nice segue. That's unintentional.
I mean, in the past,
it was good.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. For those on the podcast, with our video view, I'm changing banners. It's it's a great habit here. Just trying to really produce this well. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, back to the conversation. Sports from a generational view is like what I was talking about. Today, players, with the whole fact of like social and whatnot, it's very hard to hide. And this gets brought up in a lot of sports shows, so I'm not going to belabor the point too much. But like I said, back in the day in the 80s, man, when we were watching and the kids are playing or even the professionals are playing, I mean, there's full on like fights and swinging, and hockey's a great example of the goons. I mean, one of the best times ever. And hockey's great, but it kind of disappoints me today because the whole concept of fighting, although I guess it's all illegal if you think about it. I mean, that's assault literally happening on the ice in the past. But
it was kind of like, no, wait. I guess it's like boxing. I mean, I guess everybody accepted fighting in that sense, right? It almost was like accepted behavior that that was hockey.
Oh, I completely agree.
Guys, I mean, look, you're a much bigger hockey fan than I am, but I mean, there are guys who I learned this from you and some other people that, there are players that simply were on the court or on the ice, on the ice, who couldn't play hockey. They were just goons. They barely knew how to skate, and their whole thing was to go in there and just get into a fight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that was it. To your point, the word goons is specifically what their purpose was.
Yeah.
They were to come in, protect the star player. So if anybody started messing with their star player, they'd go in and make sure they knocked him out, or send a message to leave him alone by whether getting into fights or whatnot. So, but I guess, today's sports, again, with social and whatnot, one of the challenges I always have is, and this is the old man in me, I guess, at this point, which is hard to say old man. I really don't feel like it, but I guess I am.
Look at your beard. By the way,
It's,
yeah, his whole chin's white, in case you know.
yeah,
But just
it's fine.
for those
It's
on
not
the call.
all white. It's not as bad as yours.
Oh, it's just as bad.
All
Stop.
right.
If you
Okay.
want the percentage-wise, we're probably about the same or close. Anyway,
Hey,
go
man,
ahead.
I think it looks good. It's distinguished.
I think it looks good. Yeah,
There we
distinguished.
go.
That's what
There
we
we
need.
go.
We
That's
need
the
all the
appropriate.
help we got.
Exactly. So, but no, I mean, rules change over time, and it's kind of funny how you hear players talking about, oh, the players in the past can't play with them versus players, in the past saying players in today would have no chance in the past, and they're not wrong, both in a sense,
Yeah,
because although I disagree with the concept, and also for players today, they might change too, but the difference between the past and today, as far as player and athletes in general, is the training they get, the
that would all done.
workouts they do, the 100% focus on it. Like these guys playing in the past who were great, Jordans, the Birds, Magic, and so forth, Kareem, and all those guys. They played and they loved the game and they played it, but they didn't go to like gyms, at least through high school, AAUs, things like that,
Oh, yeah.
and get all this work. And they jumped into a league where you had to be tough. Like they're gonna knock you down. There were no
That
like
was more
rules.
important than being athletic.
Correct. You
Yeah,
had to be more physical. And that was something Jordan had to learn to beat the Pistons, was he had to get more physical.
yeah.
Whereas today, again, it's the rules change, so you can only play within the rules that you're given. Like again, it's no shot at them because they're playing within their rules. If they change the rules, then they'd probably be playing differently.
Yeah.
But the league itself, and it's not the players. I think the league, meaning the
Oh,
league office, have just
it's
gotten
fun.
soft.
Think about it. It's the idea of social media. It's the idea of the money that they get. I mean, LeBron's a billionaire. I mean, and all these players, the money they get for playing isn't where they get most of their income. I mean, think about how many of them are on social media. The platforms they have and how many people follow them, how much they have for sponsorships just on social media, let alone the shoe deals and all the other things that come with it. The image that they have to have is not just in the 80s. There was two sets of people that they needed to impress in the 80s was the guys who followed sports and probably women who wanted to get out their athletes. That was it. But
Right.
nowadays they have the whole thing with look at the expansion that all the leagues have had of trying to draw women in. They know that women's half the population, so they want to get women more involved in it. That's the reason why you see fighting like eliminated, is because they didn't want it to be from just these hardcore, people or guys wanting to see this type of stuff. They wanted to make sure it was appealing to a much broader audience. And I
Right.
mean, that's the reason why you've seen that. And like, that's why you don't see like taunting anymore. When you can even go down into things not fighting, like taunting or just a lot of the things that people used to do that were accepted that they don't anymore, because again, they're trying to appeal to this larger audience. And so, yeah, so the sports is in it, but also the players themselves see that revenue. If they're, I mean, like going back to John Moran, I mean, he's probably trying to get that, I don't know what you want to call it, street cred or whatever. Because if you hear about his background, where he actually grew up, that's not how he grew up. He grew up in in a much different environment that he's trying to portray right now. But
Right.
then,
But if you're young though, and to your point, and to that point specifically, when you're young, you grew up a certain way, and then you
right,
see
right,
another way of how things happen, and it's
yeah,
exciting sometimes. Like you want, oh, dude, I didn't get to do that, or this is cool. Let's go try this. And so,
you wanted to that when you were younger, like you saw other people doing that, and you only saw the glamour side, I guess you can say, right, or whatever, and you wanted to
yeah,
emulate it.
yeah, or you just again, it's just people you run into, or just things people do. It's like people pick up drinking or smoking or things like that. Some of the
Yeah, yeah,
times it's more just because others are doing it. And so because others are doing it, I should be doing it. And it's the follower mentality a lot of times. And
yeah, right.
so that's where some players and not just players. This is just the youth. Even adults still do this too, right? They tend to get into this faller mentality, and and to your point, yeah, a lot of it's social. They're trying to be big, and with all the money out there, there's so much they have to do. They have to maintain this image if they want to continue to pull in the money, because no one's going to represent them, Nike or others, unless they do these sort of things.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, that was not a concern. I mean, if there were fights on the court, as long as they were wearing a Nike brand, fantastic. It's like the rules change. The rules change, and I guess back to that whole point, it's like the leagues themselves, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, it's less about the players changing to make it soft. Although we could get into football itself, European football, the actual, or soccer for American fans.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But the fact is that there's the league has created this sense of softness because the rules are always like NFL.
Yeah.
Defense can't do anything. Like legitimately can't do anything. Like a cornerback touches a guy and suddenly he's considered, it's a penalty. And this one pisses me off the most, by the way. And I still get irritated by this call on the defensive side. So if defense gets called for pass interference, it's spot, and this is for the NFL, not for college, but for NFL specifically. If you get called for pass interference, then what happens is you're going to get the ball wherever the pass interference took place at and a first down. If you hold them, at any point prior to breaking free before the pass, that's a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Right.
So the defense always gets screwed no matter what. So here's my thought. This is what they need to do.
That's terrible.
On the offensive side, they need to flip that. If you want to make it competitively fair, if offense gets called for offensive pass interference, they lose a down, and it's minus 15 yards.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm not done. I'm in a mindset right now. And if they fucking hold, it's a loss of downs. Those cheating bastards. Let the cornerbacks have a chance. Anyway, go ahead.
The way that they appeal to most of the audience, again, similar to the thing about fighting, is they want scoring. They don't care about defense. Well, okay, let me ask you a question. Like when everybody sees like a defensive game, like the Super Bowl with the Rams and the Pats, right? It was the Pats, right?
Yeah.
The Rams was.
Yep.
Everybody says that was the worst Super Bowl ever, right? People will say that. Not everybody, but a lot of people think it was like the worst. Why? Because it wasn't high scoring.
Because the Pats won. That's why. I don't even know why you're asking that question.
Okay, a lot of people probably say that, but no. It's because it was a defensive one, and people hate defensive games. They don't respect it. But if you look at one of the greatest games ever was it Rams and Chiefs, when there was like 45-42 or whatever, like that insane score was, that they were just nonstop scoring.
You talking about last year's Philly Chiefs game?
No. I'm talking like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was when.
Oh, regular season game. Got it. Yeah.
But everyone says, that was like the greatest game.
No, because it's fantasy football, dude.
But that's what I mean. The league only cares about appealing to as broad of an audience as possible. And what people want to see is scoring an offense. Period. All of these rules are not for player safety. They don't care about player safety. They care about making
what?
They don't care about player safety. They only care about, look, a team is not going to be good without look at the Patriots. Anybody that thinks that Belichick is still not a great head coach is fooling himself. GM, okay, I can maybe agree with that. No great coach is going to do well without a great quarterback. Every dynasty had the combination of a great coach and a great quarterback.
Okay, that's specific. You're saying dynasty. But even a winning Super Bowl team does not have to have a great quarterback.
Which is an exception, though. Is that the rule?
Is it an exception? Think how many times that's happened.
Okay, are you talking about like the Rays? That's an exception. They usually have to have an amazing defense with a really strong running game for that.
Of course, if you have a bad quarterback, you need that defense.
How many times has those teams in the 80s on up have won with that type of formula versus ones that have a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame coach?
I'm just saying it's not proven.
I didn't
great coach, and I disagree that Belichick's still a great coach. I don't think he is. He is not a great coach.
How do you say that?
Okay, last season alone, his greatness was to get 2 defensive coordinators to become offensive coordinator.
I'm not saying that he's not having a lull, but if you look at
He's not having a lull, dude. That's
look
like
at what he's done since he's been a coach in the NFL.
he lost with Cleveland.
Defenses,
Lost with Cleveland.
but he was on the upswing when he left. And trust me,
Was he? Why did he leave then? He didn't leave because he was going to take the Patriots job. He left to go coach with the Jets.
He got fired because they were moving the team, and they wanted to go in a different
That's
direction.
right. They moved the team to Baltimore to where they are today. Thank you. That's all I need to hear, everyone. He just admitted it. They moved the team. Go on. Sorry. Should we move to something else? You know what? Let's move to another conversation because I think from a generational standpoint, there's going to be differences. I don't consider him one of the greatest of all times. I think he's lived a long time. He's had a great career as a coach, but a lot of it's Brady because Brady went and clearly won without him. So, and he's been the crapper since.
Wait. Are you going to say the first 3 are because of Brady?
Yeah, he maintained control of the ball. Yeah.
Really? You're really going to say that the first 3 wins?
I am. I'm not repeating it. Dude, am I repeating myself here? I just said yes.
I'm
asking and I said yes. I said yes.
Okay, fine.
Sweet. Thanks.
Yes. Brady transformed into an all-time great quarterback. He did.
Over time. Correct.
Those first 3 Super Bowls were, you can't say that Brady was the driving factor for those.
No, you had to have a good running game. You had to have a strong defense. It was a good team, right? So fine. In that case,
Belichick, who ran that team?
Who ran the team? Brady did.
What about the defenses that he coached over in New York on the Giants?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not a great defensive coordinator.
The defensive coordinator is what? What do they call him again? What are defensive coordinators called again?
Coach. Defensive coordinators. You just said that.
They're coaches.
They're called defensive coordinators.
So look at his lineage.
They're not head coach. Stop it.
And the head coach.
Stop.
He's an all-time great. Period. End of discussion. We can move on now. Look,
he's a great coach.
It's easy to say
I'll
right now.
I'm going to get that. Team fine. Here's my question to you right off the bat. Okay. Everything else aside. Top 4 greatest coaches of all time. Go.
Paul Brown.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Bill Walsh.
Okay.
Belichick. And now you have to say Andy Reid.
Wow. So Lombardi doesn't get Dick?
No.
Huh. Interesting. How about Shula?
Longevity.
Are you literally giving it to Belichick just because they won all the Super Bowls, not because he actually changed the game?
A lot of it plays in spite of
who changed the game. Who changed the game is the big thing for a lot of these coaches.
Bill Walsh.
Belichick didn't change shit.
Bill Walsh and Paul Brown.
And Paul Brown, yes, I'll give you that. Those are the top 2 right off the bat. I'm 100% with you.
And they had nothing to do with that. They're my 2 favorite teams either. Nothing. Zero.
No, I don't disagree. Bill Walsh's offense schemes are still being used today.
Right. His concepts are, yeah, definitely.
That everybody uses it, specifically the successful ones. Andy Reid, Shanahan, all of them are using it.
Where his tree started. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah, you can root it all the way back to him. Exactly.
And you still follow a very similar formula, yeah.
Yeah, because it works. It works. Exactly. It works. But yeah, to me, the other 2 are Shula. Shula's one. Shula's one.
You know what? No. I'll give you Shula. Why would you say Lombardi, though?
Lombardi, because he is the one who won 6 straight years heading into the Super Bowls, and he left. He just left. He didn't leave, and they suddenly, or he didn't lose, and they suddenly left. He left at the top. So, and he made it change the game. He's the one that brought it to the forefront to where the NFL could actually move forward and join with the AFL and create what's today's NFL.
To an extent, but I still want to say that he's. I mean.
It's fine. That's the beauty of these things. We're going to disagree.
What did he do to actually push that, except for having that team?
What do you mean? What did he do? Lombardi?
What did he innovate? What did he really innovate? Like I can say at that same time period, Paul Brown innovated the forward pass, things like communicating with the quarterback. A lot of things that Paul Brown did laid the foundation, like scouting, and a lot of the things that he did were foundations for the NFL. You can go back and look at again. And Bill Walsh attributes what he did to Paul Brown, to him being during their time in Cincinnati. So of course, being a Browns fan, I lived in the past like we have to.
You at least admitted they moved.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. It's on this. It's fine. People can go
The
back
staff
like
moved.
not even 5
Staff
minutes ago.
moved.
5
The
minutes
staff
ago.
moved. Nope. The
Anyway,
name, everything stayed in Cleveland.
so
But
what about okay? So where do you
why
put
would you say Lombardi? I just think Lombardi is a quote machine and all that stuff, and he had a legendary team. But I just
yeah, but
and
he
it
had a
was
legendary
I'm wrong on that.
dynasty. A legendary dynasty. Okay. This is not
Right.
just a
I
team.
know.
It
I'm
was a
saying that, but what I'm
dynasty.
saying is, what did he innovate except for having that team?
So okay, so then we want to change what the dynamics are of this conversation. I just asked you what your top four were. Now you want to say, well, they
That's
have
what
to
I
have
want.
innovated. If they
As
didn't
a
innovate,
coach,
then they don't count.
as a coach, what did he really do? What like why would he be considered great except for his teams having superior talent and winning? You know, this is also the time where, like, look, let's go back to the '80s. You know, where teams could just buy a team, kind of like how the Yankees do now, and still lose. But when
Yankees
you
don't
look
buy
at that
things.
time period, it was
Yankees don't
easy
buy.
to kind of amass a team like that and keep it together. So was it
Look, we can go on forever. Okay, we're gonna agree to disagree. Let's just go that route. Okay,
okay?
there's
Okay, fine.
nothing's gonna change.
Okay,
I will ask you this though: would you put Tom Landry in your top 10?
that's a good question. Yeah,
How about
I hate the
couple?
Cowboys. Yeah, I think you have to bring Landry into that.
I think
Definitely.
he's iconic.
Yeah.
To your point, like that's
I
very
think more
iconic.
so than Lombardi. I would say, like, I think I would give him that where, yeah, I would put him above Lombardi to me. And even though like you said, he was just steady and he was iconic in that way. We lost you. You're gone.
I'm here.
There you go.
I'm here.
There you go. Okay.
Sorry. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I was there the whole time.
Yeah.
My camera went off briefly. It's fine. It doesn't matter. In a podcast, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just keep going. It's fine.
But again, so let's see what other coaches, like, who else would you put in there in that top 10 then?
For the top 10, I mean, that's why I'm asking. I mean, there's so many
Like
coaches
I
I
said,
can't even.
I would say Andy Reid because
Yeah, I
I look
agree.
back at what he did in Philadelphia when he was there, right? McNabb was an above average quarterback, and the things that he did with that team and how consistently they won. And then he came into, even because you can't just say now that just because he had Mahomes, that team was playing at that level with Alex Smith. Maybe not, okay, no, not at that high of a level that they did when Mahomes came in. But it's not like Mahomes came into a 4-8 team and all of a sudden turned them around. They were a playoff team the year before. It's just Andy. I mean, how many questions were there when Andy Reid decided to let go of Alex Smith and go with Mahomes? People thought he was crazy for doing it, but it was the right decision. So that's why I mean, I think you have to put Andy Reid up there now for what he's done. But so, like, who else would you have in your top 10? Who would be the next one?
Well, I mean, it's hard because you try to think back historically too, right? Like you're going to have other ones like Bill Parcells. There's another one, right?
Yeah.
What did Bill Parcells do? He ended up getting, the Giants a couple Super Bowls for a team. You also have some others like
Jimmy
Mike
Johnson.
Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's father.
Yeah,
He innovated off of Bill Walsh's offense,
he did.
which is still used by a lot of teams today.
And he didn't. And you could say that he had Elway, but
And Mike
Elway
Holmgren,
wasn't Elway.
another example, Mike Holmgren. I mean, I'm a little bit more on the focus on the 80s and 90s apparently.
No way, really?
With the coaches I'm calling, at least the coaches that are popping in my mind immediately.
Jimmy Johnson, like I said.
Like Hank Stram.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there've been a lot of great coaches. It's hard to come with just your top 10, but yeah, it's
hard because it's like, again, there's so many things that go on with a team and the eras and everything that they do. It's like, when you look at like the air raid system and all these innovations that you saw, people may not use those exact concepts now, but I mean, there's so many coaches that had an impact on the league. And I mean, and then that's just,
right.
we're talking about NFL right now.
That's true. We didn't even go into others. Like from a basketball standpoint, there's so many coaches out there. Red Auerbach, who was the orchestrator of the Celtics for decades.
Right.
You have Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson. You have, oh my goodness, why am I forgetting the head coach of the Pistons for the Bad Boys?
Oh yeah.
He's a great coach as well. And then you got Pop. now.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr has now won 4 as a head coach as well. You even have Spoelstra, who's done a good job with Miami.
He's probably the one that surprised me the most, because you kind of looked at him as like, is he just having success because they got the big 3? But he's been a lot more consistent than I expected. It's like
Yeah.
he kind of brushed him off for the wrong reasons. Like, oh, he's just there and he's just a puppet with Riley and LeBron, but he showed that he's not. It's actually
Although he hasn't won a title without it, so
true.
but he's gotten them there.
But then again, you have to look at like that string. Nobody won a title nobody besides the Warriors and LeBron have won that many titles in the last 15 years. It's kind of what it is. I mean, when you look at that stretch, it's like everybody talking about like, Jordan during his 6-year stretch, right? That time. It was like, well, did he have competition? It's like, was it because he didn't have competition, or was it because he just was winning everything? You didn't have those teams where nobody cares about them because you only care about the winner a lot of times.
Yeah, and they won 6 in like 8 years.
Yeah.
But that's because he took time off for baseball. And
and then you got to talk about their coach, his coach there, right?
Yeah.
Look what he did. I mean, he goes to the Lakers, but then you could say, well, then he has 2, top 5 players of all time after he loses Jordan.
You can definitely say that. And then all you have to do is bounce back and go look at other coaches who coached them prior to that and still didn't get the same effect. So there is something said about those coaches. But
I always say that, look, coaches can only do so much.
Right.
But it's you have to look at coaches, to me, as like, do they maximize? Do they get the most out of it? And he obviously did. I mean, with how many rings he's won. And I think that's even like Kerr. Like, if Kerr had a different team, would he be that good of a coach? Does his coaching style and how he kind of saw the 3 come up, it worked with what he had. Like, he was able to adjust it.
It's a fair point. It's hard to say for some of these because they've never really. For Curry came into a good team. Mark Jackson set up a great team, or the foundation for a great team.
But he couldn't bring him to the next level.
Yeah.
Also, Curry was how many ankle issues did Curry have before
Yeah,
that?
agreed. I mean, a lot of this plays into it too. Health, injuries, those sort of things. That's true in all sports. I mean, you get health and you get injuries. A great team suddenly becomes an okay team because maybe they lost 2 top stars, and it's a struggle. Now they're out, right? So you just got to play through all that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can go on there, but I do want to jump into the next one, which is still on the sports side. Like, and you've asked this before, like looking at some of these things, do we consider sports a rig? Now, let's talk about wrestling. Professional wrestling is storyboarded, is how I look at it. It's not, I wouldn't say they put no effort in. Those guys work their ass off to sell that and do all the work they do.
Yeah.
But it is still rigged in the sense they know who's going to win.
That's not rigged, though, to me. That's scripted.
Rigged. Correct. Some will say it's rigged, but anyway, that aside, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah,
it's scripted from the top down. Absolutely, everybody knows it, and they don't hide it. So no, that's why I don't think it's.
Well, I would say everybody knows it. There are plenty of fans out there who truly believe this is reality and don't recognize that it's a story.
Yeah, and that's hopefully a very, very small minority. Hopefully, because it'd be really scary to think that people actually think. I mean, look, like you said, the pain that they go through, the shit that they do to the training that they do and what they put their bodies through is, I mean, like, I don't know if you know this, but like, remember Diamond Dallas Page? Like, he has this whole big thing where he has like a yoga program to help rehab. Like, he did it to rehab himself, but he's helped a lot of professional wrestlers who destroyed their bodies for the sport. And it is a sport. I mean, look, you could say that it's whatever,
without a doubt.
But they have to be athletic.
By the way, we'll have to do a show of what we consider not to be sports that are called sports. That's for another week. Go on.
But yeah, but I mean, look, that's the reason why I'll say that it's not rigged. It's scripted. That's intended from the top down. And I guess when I say is sports rigged, and the question I have for you is, there's definitely an influence that goes on because of betting, and that was on before today. But when I say rigged, it's, to me, I had to say that it's, again, a top-down thing. Is it coming down from the league? Like the whole thing about the Patriots, people would always say that they had preferential treatment. Does the league itself say, give them the calls? We want them to win. Is the league saying that? Or is there just a bias? So, I mean, there's a difference between it actually being rigged where they're saying, no, we're going to what levels you say? Is it like WWE where they basically say, no, the script for this year is this. They're going to win, period. The Browns are going to lose every game again, blah, blah, blah. That's a script. That's
The Browns are going to lose.
right.
I love how it always comes full circle back to your team. There you go.
But no. Or is it like, they're going to influence the games. They're going to say, hey, we want this team to get more calls versus this team.
Well,
or
I don't know if
bias, or do we mistake bias to being rigged?
Yeah, and I don't. That's a good point, right? So, as a fan, when calls don't go your way, it's rigged.
Right.
It's fact. It is what it is. Like the refs are one-sided. They're only pulling for this one team. So,
like you see it.
You don't look at the whole thing. You just look at that moment in time and how it impacts your game. Like, for instance, last week's game. Yeah, I mean, last week's game. We'll use your Browns, for example, because it's probably one of the more interesting calls. Not necessarily the first one was wrong, but the second one was interesting. It's like, when do refs determine when they want to really apply the rule of law, right? Because they don't. Like, there are times I see offensive linemen on every pass play, usually the tackles, jump back before the ball snapped. Every time. That's a false start.
That why isn't being called?
Right. So they don't call that. Basketball. Man, those guys are traveling all day. They tried last year.
Yeah.
They tried last year, and they started calling it early on, and then they kind of laid off of it because they realized if we do that, the game's going to get slower. And so,
and scoring's going to get lower.
Right. Now, there are historically, we know now that Donahue was betting on games and would make slight calls that would impact for him as a gambler to hopefully win that game. So
that's obvious. But see, I don't see that as being rigged. I see
that one I consider to be more rigged because he was rigging it for himself. Right. But that's a unique case.
Sports is rigged.
Right.
That means somebody has an undue influence on the game.
Yeah, I don't think sports are rigged as much as, to your point, like, there's different ways you look at it. Is it really rigged where they're pulling for just one team, like the Patriots should win every Super Bowl, or whatever it might be, or is it more that the reffing is just so inconsistent and poor that it's hard not to get that sense of they're pulling for the other team, because they will sometimes pull for. You'll see penalties happen more towards one team than another, and it's human nature. Although they're supposed to be impartial,
but they're human.
They're human. Emotionally, they can't.
Well, I look at it this way. Again, coming back to the Browns, but even other teams that you see that are historically bad, I don't think we get benefit of the doubt. I think that there are a lot of times where it's just assumed that we fucked up, that we screwed up, that it's something like that. So I don't think bad teams get benefit of the doubt. Like my two of my sons have this thing where I don't know if you remember this with Jordan when he was playing, but he complained about a non-call, and the referee goes, "I didn't see it, but I believe you," and they called the foul. I don't know if you remember that, but it literally, they had the mic on the ref, but the ref basically say, "Oh, I didn't see it, but Mike, I believe you, so I'm going to call the foul."
Well, yeah. So it's the superstar scenario, right? So, like a Brady, and the NFL literally changed rules for Brady. Now, because the rule, what happened to him, impacted their belief that they need to change the rules.
Yeah.
Now, again, by the way, we talk about all this, and tomorrow we'll watch football games. We'll see some things happen, and we'll go to this. And fucking refs are just pulling for this team. But that aside, that's the emotional side. But just looking at logically, the NBA, you're right. Superstars get preferential treatment. It's a fact. It's not even a doubt. But when they don't get it, and another star does, that's when the teams start yapping at the refs, going, "Dude, you can't do it for one and not the other."
That's not people automatically assume, like you said, when it's their team or against them or against an outcome they want. I mean, it's funny when you see people really complain about it, then you find out that they lost money on it. And you're like, okay, that's where you're complaining from.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. And but basketball, I think, is much more in line with this whole favoritism
Oh yeah.
because you're talking to the refs, you're interacting with them all game. So it's easier to see why rookies don't get as much love as a all-star.
Oh, yeah.
Although there's times where refs just assume you're just a magician, and so you probably never got fouled, even though you're getting hacked going in. I've
Yeah.
seen this plenty of times in the past, whether it was
Yeah.
Curry, who goes in there all the time and never gets a single call. Now, sometimes he's actually not getting hacked, and his way of finishing can sometimes lead to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of times he is, and he doesn't get any calls in
Well,
some
the
games.
obvious one was Shaq.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with
Yeah,
Shaq,
yeah.
yeah.
I
They
mean,
they just
people-
let it go because he's so big. They're like, well, you're just too big. Like, it's come on. No, that's not how it works.
LeBron did the same thing, and I mean,
Yeah.
I think he took it to an extreme, and but he played the league. I
I
don't
think you play the rules that are given to you.
I don't hate him for flopping. I hate the fact that the league allowed it.
Exactly.
I don't hate him. Look, if he's on your team and you're not flopping, I mean, I honestly, you can't hate a player for that. I may not respect it. I mean, he probably feels dirty for it, but it's just one of those things.
I don't know if he feels dirty because he's playing within the rule. To your point, if the league's not going to do anything to stop, it's just like cornerbacks.
Well, that's a good point, yeah.
Cornerbacks know that they'll actually hold a receiver probably 90% of the time in the game, but they'll only get called maybe 10%
And
of
they're
the time in the
good.
game. That's what the Seahawks used to do in the past with the Legion of Boom. They straight up said it. We know we do it all the time because they're only going to call it every once in a while. Refs just aren't consistent. They wouldn't, if they did, then
We're aware that they would know when to do holding and when not to do pass interference, which is a major, like you brought up earlier. It's a major difference. Yeah, 5 yards and automatic first down is huge, but pass interference is automatic first down and whatever the yardage is. There's a difference in that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So I don't think anything's rigged per se. I just think it's to your point. There's leagues or sports that are scripted. There's also human interaction where they get biases. There's always going to be refs just being bad refs. I mean, the last game for the Niners and the God,
that's how it is with the NBA in terms of like how refs can also like
they can throw a guy out.
They can throw a guy out for no reason. I mean, there was that one time where Tim Duncan got thrown out of a game for laughing.
Yeah, I mean, again,
he was sitting on the bench and he laughed and got kicked out. I mean, how are they allowed to do that?
Right, and I would say baseball from a sport standpoint, from an umpire.
Yeah,
that's when again, they know each ump has a different strike zone. Like they will, and pitchers know this too. Like some nobody's consistent, so that creates a problem already. And now they have the ability to use actual, computers and technology to help determine that zone, and they don't need umps behind there anymore. They could actually move umps out.
What about Angel Rodriguez? That guy not Rodriguez, Hernandez.
Hernandez, yep.
Who he has no strike zone. He just decides whether he wants it to be a strike or not.
Pretty much, yeah. I always love watching the games when they're on ESPN and they show the box and you can see where the ball's not even close to in and he's called a strike. And then the players get pissed and they get tossed because they talked back for a bad call. That was clearly a bad call.
A horrible call. And but the union protects him 100%. How he's still able to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, I don't think, to your point, I mean, it's going to come down to bias. It'll come down to personal opinion. As fans, we're emotional, so everything's rigged. If it doesn't go for our team, that's just a fact of life.
I'll say this: if you think it's systemically rigged, like the league actually says that type of stuff, and you still watch it,
well, yeah, then you're contributing to the problem.
Yeah, then you have nothing to complain about. Yeah. If you do it, it's just you don't like the outcome. Correct. But I don't think it's rigged. I mean, I think that. Can you imagine if the bigger the secret, the harder it is to keep?
Oh, I know. It'd leak out. Yeah, someone in the league would be pissed, would have gotten fired, and would have leaked it if that were truly the case.
Players you think would accept that?
Yeah.
I mean,
they're getting paid millions. They're getting paid millions. You pay them enough, people will just go with it if they know it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, but what about those 80% of the players that don't get paid like that?
They get cut.
Yeah, but then they would talk.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying that
I'm wrong. I agree with you. I know. It's not rigged. I agree.
It's rigged. and you still follow and root for your team and spend money on the league, then you're an idiot. I mean, I'm sorry, but
Exactly.
you're an idiot if you actually look. Like I said, I'm not saying that I don't think it's not. There's some bias or there's some.
And I hope nobody out here takes this personally.
Huh?
That's fine. Anybody listening, you're
Yeah.
calling everybody idiots, but
Oh yeah.
not some people
Only
listen.
I think is systemically rigged from the league down, and that everybody knows that the script is in, and everybody just follows it like WWE. If you think
Yeah.
that, you're an idiot.
Okay. I think we've killed this one to death. So we did talk about baseball and the whole concept of the strikes and fouls and the umps and that.
Yeah.
But let's actually just finish up. I got one more thing I want to talk about before we finish up here is World Series. So the World Series kicked off yesterday, actually, because this is Saturday. We're doing this, by the way. So it's
I know
Friday
you
night.
ask who actually cares. I actually watched the game yesterday.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question. Like,
It was a good game. I really enjoyed it. I wish
so
I liked baseball more. I honestly wish I had the patience for baseball. I don't. I don't usually have the patience to watch baseball. It's
I
just
guess my question for this was more around to your point. Like, yes, who watched it? And it's like, do we feel the challenge with baseball for me, and this may be true to some degree with the Super Bowl, because I feel like numbers for Super Bowls go up and down based on teams in there,
oh yeah.
is, heading into this, you in the, championship series for each in both National and American League,
Yeah.
you had, of course, the possibility, Houston and Texas went out. Fantastic. Right. Love Bruce Bochy, by the way. Yes, I'm a diehard Giants fan, so I'm still pissed he's gone.
Right.
And he's doing exactly what he did with the Giants.
Yep.
The other was, of course, you had the Diamondbacks and Philly. And Philly had a 3-2 lead and blew it. Yeah. So, you hear when the finals were set and everything's in place, people were, this discussed like, oh, well, it probably won't be as exciting. Who really wants to watch Arizona against Texas versus had it been potentially a Houston Philly run again?
Yeah.
And personally, I disagree. I think if you really want to solve for this whole locational thing and getting the right teams in there, then why don't you change the American National League to be East Coast and West Coast? Yeah. Because that's what they're really talking about. They feel like if there's no East Coast team there, then it's not worth watching.
Yeah, it's always been the case.
Yeah.
I think that goes on with all sports. It's like there always is that whole thing of like, you want to make sure that you get New York involved or somebody in the Northeast involved. They always want to have that.
Yeah, they always want East versus West. I mean, let's just put it what it is. Let's call it what it is. It's East versus West. That's why the NBA gets it right. East versus West.
Having said that, though, I mean, that kind of goes back to even our thing about it being rigged. If that's what the league wants, but they didn't get it, I don't think
this is rigged. This has nothing to do with being rigged, though. This is just.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. If they wanted, I agree. If baseball wanted them to call strikes a certain way, yeah.
But I'll say this. I mean, I think for me though, it's the league's not going to change that, because as much as the one group that they can't alienate is the traditionalists, the hardcore followers who have games on throughout the whole year, who go to the games, who actually follow it. I mean, yeah, it upticks during this time of the year because of people like me who finally will watch because it's the best against the best, the best pitching. You have those battles. And by the way, I absolutely love pitching battles, against like just pitchers against good batters. It's to me, it's one of the best things in sports. And throughout the year, you don't get it as often as you want. And so me being but that's why it's like when you see with baseball, you see such an uptick in viewership because you're starting to see that stuff.
Yep.
But they're never going to change they have a hard time changing the sport because the traditionalist, I mean, they don't want that change.
Agreed.
Can you imagine that? I mean, can you imagine changing the American National League?
It's fine. They've given up on designated hitter and they're doing that, so it's fine. You just do it, and eventually people come to it, whether they hate it or not. Yeah, you just force it. So last thing, because we're wrapping up here, one final question for you. You watched the game last night. Who do you think is going to win it?
I don't know.
Well, who do you want to win it based on what you saw?
I'll just be honest. I don't know enough about each team and their pitches out, because I mean, like a team losing, the one thing about baseball, it's all about pitcher and batter matchups, right? It's all it comes down to. So it depends on, who, like with all these things where teams will drop certain leads in a series. It's a lot of it has to do with the pitcher matchups. And I don't know enough about each team's bullpens and everything to be able to say. I really
That's
don't.
fine. Well, I'll say I want Rangers to win primarily because I love Bruce Bochy and I'd like to see him win another one.
That's a good reason. You know what?
That's it. I mean, that's my choice. And plus the Diamondbacks are, and the Diamondbacks are in the Giants division, so I don't want to see them win one. So it is what it is.
Yeah. That's fair.
Awesome.
I can totally go with that.
There you go. Well, great. Well, appreciate everybody listening this week. Hopefully you enjoyed what you heard.
I actually remember how games transpire next time, and don't have old man memory.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's going to happen. So you know what? If you don't like it, then you can just not listen because it's going to happen.
You gotta stop saying that. People will leave. Make sure to subscribe. Yeah, subscribe to our channel and pass it around. And we'll be back next week with yet another fun topic, I'm sure. Yeah. All right, have a good one.
We'll just ramble.
There we go. All right.
Are we done?